Hello everyone. On this channel, I feel that information about what is happening in China is often not correctly conveyed to countries other than China, so I will be disseminating the information I have gathered in English. I'm getting information from multiple media, so I'd be happy if you could comment on the content of the video. Also, English is not my native language, so I use an AI speaker to create the voice to convey the information correctly. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel and support us. This time I would like to talk about the renminbi. In Japan, there is a great deal of information about the US dollar, but important information about the renminbi is often not reported or treated to a lesser extent. Important information is rarely shared, so from the standpoint of ordinary Japanese people, we have no choice but to make decisions based on limited information. This time, I would like to talk about the recent developments in the renminbi, including as much information as possible that will be of use to you. First, the first topic, which may be familiar information to those who are interested in economics, is that the yuan's exchange rate against the dollar has been declining recently. This is a hot topic in China. In addition, the Japanese yen has also fallen against the dollar, so if you compare the yen and the yuan, you may not feel a big change. Continues to decline. Specifically, looking at the 5-year chart, the current RMB title rate has fallen to the lowest level of 5 years ago. Looking at the chart, the dollar is currently at 7.23 yuan, and if it gets worse, the dollar may rise to 8 yuan. There are several explanations for what leads to this situation. As with the yen-dollar exchange rate, there are multiple factors at play, but now China is continuing its accommodative policy and is getting even more accommodative. In other words, they are cutting interest rates. On the other hand, the United States is raising interest rates. In such a situation, the theory is that the currency of a country that is cutting interest rates will depreciate. It is often explained by the interest rate difference in the exchange market. However, if that alone is enough, if China raises interest rates in the future, the value of the renminbi against the dollar will rise again. However, if the Chinese economy slows down in the future, there is a possibility that the value of the renminbi will not recover even if interest rates are changed. In other words, the demand for the renminbi is based on the premise that holding the renminbi allows you to buy various things from China. However, it is said that China's position in the world economy will not be as large as it once was, and that other economies such as India, Vietnam, and Central and South America will grow. The Chinese economy is not booming like it used to be, and there are too many negative factors for the economy inside China. There are huge disparities, poverty, declining birth rate and aging population, and unemployment problems. It is not a simple situation that the economy will revive if China improves these problems. Therefore, even if interest rates are changed, there is a high possibility of falling into a situation where nothing can be done. I feel that people in the Chinese-speaking world are paying close attention to what will happen to the Chinese economy in the future. Here's some information you probably aren't aware of. I would like to introduce an article. This is an article from July 2023. But it says that Russia is selling the renminbi. With this information alone, you may be wondering what's going on, so I'll walk you through it step by step. Currently, Russia is under sanctions from the West, making it almost impossible to trade in dollars. I'm sure that you are all aware that trade between China and Russia is flourishing. So what currency are they trading in? They are using their own currency. It is said that about 80% of trade between China and Russia is settled in ruble or renminbi. And in terms of trade between China and Russia, which one buys more commodities? It is said that China buys energy from Russia cheaply because Russia is under sanctions. So China buys a lot of energy from Russia and pays for it in renminbi. However, as a result, Russia has a surplus of the renminbi. If there are many things that Russia wants to buy from China, they can buy them with the yuan they have on hand. The story that China and Russia have started trading in renminbi has also been reported in Japan. There may be a situation where China's hegemony is over, and at least the CCP seems to be watching with great concern. In order to raise the status of the renminbi, China is bang that the era of renminbi settlement will come. Some people in Japan may have the impression that trade between Russia and China runs smoothly through renminbi settlement, but there is a reason why this is not the case. Why does Russia have so much yuan on hand but not so much to buy from China? Now Russia is under sanctions, but this won't last forever. Someday Russia will trade with the world again. At that time, you will be able to trade in dollars and euros again. It means that you can buy what you want from Europe and the United States. Since they only have the renminbi on hand at the moment, they may be thinking that they will be in trouble in the future if they buy various things from China. For example, let's say you bought a printer. If you need to change cartridges after using it for a while, you may not be able to buy cartridges from a sanctioned country. In that case, you may think that the printer will be traded from China. But I don't think Russian people think that way. Transactions will be resumed after a while, so until then, it would be better to purchase the cartridges from a third country, even if they are more expensive. This is because the performance of the printer itself is sometimes superior in Europe and the United States, and it is also because we are used to using it. Printers are an obvious example, but the same is true when consumables are needed, such as large-scale manufacturing equipment or inspection equipment in the medical field. Many people are aware that if they switch to Chinese products because sanctions continue, they will be in trouble in the future. Therefore, currency issues are also related to the productivity, product quality, and innovation capacity of the country issuing the currency. Given the attractiveness of the renminbi compared to other currencies, people in Russia can also keep the renminbi and buy from China. However, in reality this is not the case. So, looking only at the convenience of the currency, it is said that the digital yuan is more convenient than using SWIFT, and that the era of the renminbi will come after the hegemony of the dollar is over. So, Russia sells the yuan that it has accumulated on hand in the offshore renminbi market, that is, in London and Hong Kong to raise dollars and euros. I think many people in Japan have the image that China and Russia are working together to destroy the hegemony of the dollar. However, when it comes to what you can actually buy with that currency, Russia sells the yuan to raise dollars, so there is something different from the image that many people are worried about. It is a story that there is. In addition, there is another point to consider regarding whether or not the renminbi will become a major settlement currency. As I said earlier, when it comes to using currencies to settle trade, it is almost impossible to find a perfect equilibrium. For example, China is hoarding dollars in an era when it was said to be the world's factory. When Japan also has a trade surplus, it accumulates a lot of dollars. Then, if you think about how to hold the dollar, it will not increase even if you hold it in cash, so basically you buy and hold US treasuries. The same is true for Japan, and China also holds US dollars in this way. If the renminbi becomes a settlement currency, will China have that kind of resilience? In other words, even if there is a yuan that has been accumulated from the trade surplus, is there a country that wants to convert it into Chinese government bonds and hold it? US government bonds are highly liquid, can be sold quickly when you want to cash them, and are considered one of the safest bonds. Furthermore, financial systems such as futures trading and foreign exchange forward contracts to hedge exchange fluctuations are also well developed. And since the number of players participating in the transaction is also very large, there are various options for holding assets in dollars. We have to consider whether it is in the renminbi or not. Well, this is my personal image, but I think that buying Chinese government bonds and hedging them with RMB futures and options to eliminate exchange rate fluctuation risk is much more difficult than with the dollar, and when it comes to international transactions in renminbi, the problem of what to do with the earned renminbi also comes up. Moreover, since the management of currency is not left to market principles, the value fluctuates greatly depending on the thinking of the Communist Party. At present, I don't think it's possible for other countries to want to have such a risky thing. I think there are quite a few people in Japan who think that the renminbi's hegemony over the dollar has been pushed down by the renminbi in global trade due to biased information, and that the presence of the renminbi is spreading. It is true that the renminbi's international settlement share is said to be the highest ever, but the percentage is in the single digits. In response to the fact that the single-digit percentage has increased a little, the renminbi's market share has grown so much that the dollar has already been planted in the mindset. However, there are still many problems that need to be cleared before the renminbi can replace the dollar. By the way, there are many countries and people who have concerns about the dollar being too strong in international trade, and there are moves to do something about it. However, that does not mean that the renminbi will be used instead of the dollar. If the renminbi replaces the dollar and takes over the hegemony, nothing will change for other countries. In short, we don't want our economy to be affected by the policies of the United States, so it doesn't make sense for the United States to change to China. Therefore, we would like to independently conduct safe trade. It is also important to note that dislike of dollar hegemony does not mean that renminbi hegemony is good. From what I have said so far, I think you can see how influential the digital renminbi, which China is currently promoting, will be. Regarding the digitization of the renminbi, I think that convenience will increase on one side. However, there is a problem that there is a power outage and some people do not have a smartphone. While it is convenient in some ways, it also makes it easier for the Communist Party to manage the people. In China, many people do not pay their taxes properly. And although there are also opaque money exchanges, the Communist Party would like to promote it because if it is digitized, the Communist Party will be able to grasp all the flow of money. Of course, there is a possibility that the digital yuan will be used outside of China, but the reason most of the world's trade is done in dollars is not because the dollar is overwhelmingly convenient. Well, there are many other factors. Under such circumstances, it may be convenient to use the digital renminbi, but it is impossible for the renminbi to replace the dollar just because it is convenient to use. Moreover, China is not the only country trying to digitize its currency. I'm using SWIFT now, which is quite inconvenient. I think there is certainly a part of the time-consuming and costly procedure that SWIFT has been around for a long time. And the system called SWIFT may be eliminated in the future. However, when it comes to which currency to use, the dollar is overwhelmingly stronger than the yuan. If the Japanese yen enters the market, I think there will be more people who prefer the Japanese yen over the renminbi. Since the renminbi cannot be freely traded, it is a currency that is always accompanied by anxiety. There is just one last thing I want you to be careful about. For example, suppose that many Chinese immigrated to Japan. There is a possibility that the Chinese will trade with the digital renminbi in Japan. As the Chinese population increases significantly, a Chinese economic zone will emerge within Japan. Chinese people eat and shop at restaurants run by Chinese people, and so on. At that time, there is a possibility that the rumor that it is okay for Chinese people to trade in renminbi will spread. If such a thing is done, it is impossible to grasp the actual situation even though the economy is active in Japan. For example, when we try to collect consumption tax, there is a possibility that we will become a strange society where Japanese people who are doing similar business will be taxed, but Chinese people will not be taxed. Considering that there is already a possibility that an economic zone will be created in Japan with money other than the Japanese yen, not just the digital renminbi, should such transactions be regulated? It should be a system that makes sense. That's all for now. See you next time.